is most people will spend $100 this weekend on something they won't remember by Wednesday. A dinner, a delivery fee, a subscription that auto-renewed, and then Monday comes and the $100 is gone and nothing changed. Now imagine if that same $100 every single month for 40 years turned into $637,000, not from stock picks, not from timing a crash, not from crypto or real estate or anything that requires skill or luck. Just $100, automatic, forgotten almost. That's not a fantasy, that's arithmetic. And most people will never feel it because they never started. Here's what's strange about this moment in American wealth culture. We are living through the greatest transfer of financial information in history. More podcasts, more YouTube channels, more newsletters about money than any generation before us has ever had access to. And yet the personal savings rate in the US hovers around 3 to 4%. The information is everywhere. The behavior isn't changing, which tells you this was never an information problem. It was always a psychology problem, specifically the psychology of starting small, because $100 a month feels embarrassingly modest when you're watching people talk about six-figure portfolios, so people wait. They wait for more. And more never comes because more never feels like enough to start either. 12 months in, you've contributed $1,200. The account reads somewhere around $1,312. You gained $112 beyond what you deposited. You could have made that in an afternoon of overtime. And that's exactly the point where most people quietly stop, not with a dramatic decision, just a month where the transfer doesn't happen. Then another month. Then the account sits untouched and the habit dissolves. But here's what the balance doesn't show you. In year one, you didn't build wealth. You built something harder to construct and more valuable to own, a relationship with delayed gratification. Every month you had $100 that could have been a dinner, and you made it a contribution instead. That decision, repeated 12 times, is the foundation. The $1,312 is just evidence that the foundation exists. By year 10, something has quietly shifted. You've put in $12,000. The account holds $20,500. And in that last year alone, without a single extra dollar from you, the portfolio returned approximately $1,700. Not from a raise, not from working harder, from sure. Series compounding into each other over a decade. By year 20, that annual return from your existing balance is around $7,000. You're depositing $1,200 a year and the account is adding $7,000. The machine has become the primary contributor. You are, at this point, almost a passenger. And by year 30, with $36,000 contributed, the balance sits near $227,000 over $191,000 of which you never deposited, never earned at a job, and never won from anything. That $227,000 is generating roughly $22,700 a year on its own, nearly $1,900 a month, from something that started as pocket change. This is the insight that separates people who build wealth from people who intend to. The person investing $100 a month right now and the person waiting until they can invest $1,000 a month, they don't just arrive at 40 with different balances. They arrive with different identities. The first person has 40 years of compounding and a habit so embedded it no longer feels like discipline. It feels like personality. The second person has an intention that kept getting delayed, a savings account that kept getting raided, and the creeping awareness that time was the one asset they couldn't recover. Because here's what happens when the bigger paycheck finally arrives, or the bonus lands, or the inheritance clears. The habit of waiting came with it. The money expands to fill the life. Nothing gets built. The mechanism isn't the amount. The mechanism is the consistency. Small and consistent doesn't beat large and eventual by a little. It beats it by decades. Think about someone who started this at 24 in a studio apartment, setting up an automatic transfer on a Tuesday evening, feeling slightly ridiculous about how small it was. No one congratulated them. No one noticed. The market dropped the following year and they didn't sell. They had a period in year 4 where they genuinely considered pausing, and they didn't. By 64, that person has $637,000 from $48,000 contributed over 40 years. But the number isn't the story. The story is who they became in the process, someone who learned that their instincts about money were wrong, that the $100 was never actually load-bearing in their monthly budget, that discipline exercised quietly and consistently is a form of self-respect that compounds the same way interest does. The account is the proof. The proof that you are the kind of person. A person who builds things. That identity carries further than any single balance ever will. Here's the question I want to leave you with. Not, should you invest $100 a month? You already know the answer. The real question is, what are you waiting for that is actually more valuable than 40 years of compounding? Because if the answer is a bigger amount, you're solving the wrong problem. The amount is not the barrier. The start is the barrier. And the start is always now, and the amount is always whatever you have. If this reframed how you think about wealth building not as an event, but as a behavior, drop a comment with the word machine. I want to know who's building. And if you're not subscribed yet, this channel is for people who think seriously about money. Not get rich quick, serious, long game. That's who belongs here. See you in the next one. Sonnet 46.